invitation to love.
Everything's grown up so much.
All right,
All of the fun stuff.
we'll do it live. All right, so I'm gonna bring the cast out. Are you ready for this? Someone near and dear to my heart, one of my favorite characters in the show, our narrator, our giant, our fireman, Mr. Carl Strickland.
Is he ready? It was all a dream. This would be great on the YouTube channel.
Alrighty, he's Deputy Andy. Bringing out the police force here. Sexy Deputy Andy. Mr. Harry Goes. And now to compliment Andy, we have the lovely Miss Kimmy Robertson, Lucy herself. And to finish off the police force, or not to finish off the police force, but to introduce our newest member of the police force, Mr. Dana Ashbrook, Deputy Bobby Brooks. All right, up next, Lana Milford from season 2 of Twin Peaks. We have Robin Lively. And in The Return is what I'm going to call it. In The Return, we have a great Dougie side plot in Vegas, and we need that. That is such a great part of the show and a world of terror. And the three girls that made this part of the story so special, we have Andrea Watrous, Amy Shields, and Giselle Demir. And she is Shelly, our favorite waitress. And I know we're all starving for some diner food, but she is amazing. She was in Sleepwalkers, one of my favorite movies, and The Witches of East End, etc. Machen Amick, sorry. We have a lot of our first crushes. Ms. Audrey Horn, Miss Sherilyn Fenn. This man is as sweet as he is scary as hell. But he's the most charming man I've ever met. Mr. Ray Wise, Leland Palmer. Pick a side, right or left of the red couch. And a character so special to us, she is our Laura Palmer, Miss Cheryl Lee. And finally, he's the mayor of Portlandia, but to us, he's our Agent Dale Cooper, and scary Mr. C, and lovable Dougie, Kyle MacLachlan.
I suppose you're wondering why I called you all here today.
So all of you together, this is just an amazing event. I want to start things off, and we're going to move quickly, but I want from each and every one of you, this was just an overnight success. And when this was happening, when you guys were just shooting your next gig, and this became what it had become fast, in your lives watching that happen, what was that experience like for you just as it was happening? Did you gather with friends and watch along with everybody else? Had you already seen ahead of air? What was your experience for each person as the show just grew?
Well, I was already a big fan, and I don't think I've ever been as nervous coming on the set as I was for Twin Peaks. And it was also the first time I met David Lynch, because I had only seen the casting director before. And he walked up to me and shook my hand and said, "Everything is going to be peachy keen." And that was the first time I'd ever heard that expression.
Harry. Flip your little switch on the mic. Just a little bit. Told you, we're doing it live.
Testing. Well, I was very nervous because Kyle was in Blue Velvet and found an ear.
Is that it? Wait, what was the question?
As the show started to rise.
Right, I got it. I'm just checking. But it was just really fun to, every time I opened the front door, there was another present there. A basket of muffins, upside down wine from Australia, reporters, and I was popular all of a sudden. So personally, that was very, very unusual and strange because I was just a working person. But they made us go to these different bars to watch the show all the time, and so I never saw it, really.
Understood.
Just have to watch it soon.
I had people over to watch like the first few episodes. I had like friends and family and stuff like that over in my house, and I remember watching the dream sequence from I think the second episode of the first season, and us guys didn't know anything about the Red Room or anything. I didn't know anything. So that was, when I saw that, I was just like, man, that might be one of the best things I've ever seen on television ever in my life. That's really how it felt.
I remember that party. That was the house where you and your girlfriend broke the bed.
That shit was probably IKEA, so it wasn't that much.
Well, I came in second season, and I was completely obsessed with the show and so intimidated. I was so excited when I got the audition, and the women were the most beautiful women I'd ever seen on the show, and I was like, how am I gonna get on the show? And it was written that she was supposed to be so beautiful, and the men were just falling at her feet, and I'm like, how am I going to get on the show? So I decided to make Lana Southern. It wasn't written that way, and I thought, well, it's gonna work or it's not, and it worked, and I was so excited, and it was an absolute dream come true. I just couldn't believe I was a part of this incredible show, and yeah, I got on the show, and I thought, oh, this is gonna last forever. I can't believe I'm part of this radio, and then it was. I got on and then it ended. What? Am I cursed? I think I was cursed. Anyway. And then Ray and I have worked together so many times. It's been so great. Anyway.
I got a call from my agent, and sent this script over called Northwest Passage, and I read it through and I liked it a lot, and they set me up with a meeting with David Lynch, and so I went into the meeting with David thinking I was going to maybe read for the Sheriff Truman. How about that, huh? Yeah, I was all set to maybe play Sheriff Truman. And then when I found out, after our little meeting, we talked about our first cars. His was a Volkswagen, I think, and anyway. And then a couple of days later, I got the call, and he was interested in me playing Leland Palmer, and I had to go back to the script to look to see who Leland was again. And I looked at the first scene, and I find out my daughter's dead, and I start crying. And then I go to the morgue and identify her body, and I start crying again. And then I'm in her room, and the police are searching for her diary and other things, and I'm crying again on the bed. I said, all this guy does is cry. And then, so the light went on in my head. I'm gonna have to find different levels of crying, of mourning for my daughter. And I had no idea what was to come, believe me.
Well, you found all the levels. One of the great performances. I'd like to see that audition tape. That would be sort of fun. We would all have those if we all auditioned for other characters. What might that be like? That could be fun. David spoke to me about the script, and you're right, it was called Northwest Passage originally, and he had written it with Mark Frost. And I think in the beginning I was David's guy for Cooper. I think that was going to be it. Kind of unspoken, and then, but Mark was the wild card in it, and so I had to have had lunch with Mark so he could meet me actually, and so he could be on board with the idea of me playing Dale Cooper. So we went to the Border Grill in Los Angeles, sat down, had a very nice lunch, and I guess I convinced him because the next day we were all systems go. So that's how I came aboard. So, Border Grill, Mark Frost lunch. Dale Cooper, there you go.
I was living in Seattle at the time, and I just got a call that David was in town, and there was this whole secret, mysterious thing, and would I go meet him to play a dead girl. And so I said, yeah, absolutely. So that was it. He asked if I could be wrapped in plastic and put in cold water and painted gray. And that's how it happened.
Hi. For me, it just was another audition, but only with a genius this time. And making a long story short, somebody had said to me as a new young actress, when you go meet directors, be yourself. Don't think that you have to put on a show or behave a certain way. If you're kind of bitchy or you have a sense of humor, they've all heard this boring story. So whoever you are, be that person. Well, I was kind of shy when I first met people, and then it's David Lynch. I'm like, do I do this? You know? And so I was myself, and he just talked a lot and asked a lot of questions, and oh, you little sweet pea. And then, so I left. I mean, I thought it went okay. The casting director yelled at my manager and said I should have been more positive. like, well, that didn't work. And they called a week later and said, he's writing you a role. And so there was this little role that I was so grateful to get, like, beyond. And then I fell in love with Special Agent, Audrey fell in love with Special Agent Del Cooper. I cried my eyes out when I saw him a few days ago. Like, whoa. Embarrassing.
So I was new to Hollywood. I was only 17, 18, 17. And I was filming the pilot to Baywatch. And I was supposed to go down. I had gone in for Joanna Ray, our incredible casting director, a bunch of times on a bunch of different stuff, and she's very particular who she takes to David. And so I was supposed to go down and meet David, and I only knew David from Blue Velvet and this very strange film, Dune. And I was like, okay, so that guy's doing TV, that's weird. And I was super late on set, and I was super worried that I wasn't gonna make it, but they waited, and I read with Eric, Joanna's son, and I read for Lara Flynn Boyle's part, Donna, and we read, and it was great, but sort of like at the end of the meeting, David just said, do you want to do a TV show with me? And I was like, yeah. And then, you know, that's history. I think one of the questions too was like, were you aware of it?
As it was happening.
As it was happening.
How was that experience?
And I wasn't at all. Like, I watched with friends at home and, you know, talked to my family and stuff, but it wasn't until like the trip to New York for upfronts that it was all of a sudden like, the entire Manhattan was just surrounding us. We're just like, whoa. And then the invitation for Phil Donahue. And I was like, oh, we made it. We made it.
Phil Donahue, the kids are like, who?
I think by the time we came around, we knew what big of a deal it was. That's for sure. But yeah, they didn't tell me what I was auditioning for, but they did say it was a Showtime revival, so I'm a massive Twin Peaks fan, and I did know Showtime was doing a Twin Peaks revival. So I thought, just in case that's what it is, I'll wear what I call my Laura Palmer sweater, and make sure to mention I'm from the Pacific Northwest. And it worked, so. Thanks so much for inviting me along with all these amazing original cast members. It's a real honor. How I ended up getting involved was ages ago, over a decade ago. I was living in London, and my agent called me to say, this casting director, Joanna Ray, is in town and she's requested to meet you. So I looked up her resume and I'm like, how has she heard of me? So I go in and she says all these really wonderful things. She's like, I've got this star beside your name and I've wanted to meet you for a very long time and I'm finally in London. And I said, are you sure you got the right person? Why? But it turns out that she had seen a screen test I did for Randall Wallace, which the film never went. And she said, Amy, if you ever come to LA, I'd really love to introduce you to David. I just think you're perfect to collaborate with him on something. So then I moved to LA some years later, and I called her up and I was like, hey Joe, I'm here. And she looked after me. And then I met David and Candy came about. But as you were saying, the second part of the question, did I know it was going to change anything? Well, I don't really come into it until episode 10, and I had no idea what episodes I was going to be in, and I was mortified because I had done a bunch of press about working with him. And every week I was watching it with my two pals going, oh my God, I'm not in this show, I'm so embarrassed, I'm so embarrassed, I'm so embarrassed. And then I remember the first episode that I'm properly in, I think it's 10 or 11, I decided just not to watch it. I was in London and I woke up to my phone exploding, and Owen, one of the other cast members, had sent me a photo of me walking into the office, and I thought, oh my God, thank God. At least my mom will be happy now.
My experience is similar to Giselle's, where I got the audition, and instead of reading anything, the audition was, tell me about yourself, which at the time I'd never heard of, but now I go, oh, I see, because David Lynch doesn't actually cast actors, he casts people. He wants to see how you talk, how your face moves. He's really specific. And when I got to set, it was the most surreal experience. It's 6 years later, and it's still the most surreal experience, and I feel so grateful to be up here with all of these people that I look up to. And I love these two girls.
One of the most effective characters in the show is the music by Angelo Badalamenti, and my question for anyone that wants to answer is, during the scenes, or during the shooting of the show, before takes, did David, especially, well, hold on a second, sorry. I'm just like, oh my God, something happened. But Sherilyn, especially, I know every time we see Audrey, there's a theme and a rhythm to the scene, and did David play any of the music on set? Was any of it pre-composed, not during the take, but for just kind of to get people to kind of get in that sort of mood? Did Angelo or David play anything before takes? And
He didn't, except when in the second episode, he rewrote that whole scene in the coffee shop. And then said, and you're gonna dance at the end. And I was like, why? In the coffee shop. I was like, I'm just gonna get him and start dancing. And he said, because we wrote you a song and it's Audrey's theme and you're just gonna groove and you're gonna love it. And I'm like, okay. He's David. I actually called my teacher. I was so nervous because you come all prepared. I'm like, what do I do? He's like, listen to David Lynch, okay? Just listen and do what he said.
yeah, the music's so iconic, and I know Dana in The Return, when you first walk in, as Deputy Bobby breaks, and all of us are surprised because Bobby killed a guy. But anyway, you go in, and when you see Laura's picture and you start to cry, I'm assuming all of us in the room felt this. I mean, that was a punch in that, your reaction. Did David just kind of cry, or was it more of just, did it hit you personally as, wow, we're back on this show, it's been 25 years?
It was just written that way. I have said this, I told a bunch of people today, or at my table, but it's just written that way. It was like Bobby walks into the office, he sees a picture of Laura Palmer on the table, and Bobby cries, and that was it. And I just had to try and not mess it up.
Yeah, that's it. Kyle, in The Return, this had to be a wonderful actor's playground for you, tackling the three very different roles in the show. How exciting was this to not only come back to the show, but then go, oh, David, you have me doing everything under the sun in this run.
Exciting.
How much pressure?
Frightening, scary. Yeah, it was a gift that David gave to me. And I've been doing this for a while, and I feel pretty capable. I can sort of handle anything that comes along, except when I read Mr. C, I said, well, I've never done anything like this. and I got to find this person in me. And I was like, and if I don't find it, if it doesn't, I knew if it didn't work, the show wasn't going to work. So, a little pressure. But I had an ace in the hole. I was working with David Lynch. So, together we basically built Mr. C. Actors will know from the outside in, we actually built him, and then that created, of course, an interior life, starting with just his look, with that jacket, and that really just wrong hair. That was so perfect, down to the little detail of the pin in the back. I mean, everything was very, very specific and thought through. And then when we added a little bit of a kind of a dirt effect on his face, that just sort of sold it for me. I was like, when I look at that, I'm like, that's it. And then we added also, I think it was my suggestion, I said, this guy's a shark. And I said, I think that his eyes there's no life there. So I said, let's put a little contact in and just help that. And that also sort of moved the character closer to what I wanted. It gives him also an otherworldly kind of quality, which I thought was important. So that was David and I kind of working together. And then Dougie was just, there was an exercise that I did in school years ago when I was in training, and it was called object discovery. And so it's as if you're seeing something for the first time and you have no idea what it is or what it does. It's like a baby. You're a baby, basically, until you sort of something about it attracts you and you interact with it, and that was pretty much Dougie. So it was just finding that every day with David, which was a lot of fun. And then the goal for me was always to try to make him laugh on every take. So whatever I did as Dougie, my goal was to make David break out because of what I was doing. The other thing about Dougie was it took a lot of courage, I found, to be so still and to not do anything. Because as actors, we like to do stuff, at least I do. I like to fill the moment. And this was like, no fill in the moment. You're there and people are looking at you, and if they're uncomfortable, and that's just the way it goes. So I took a lot of courage to try and do that. And then finally when we got to Cooper, I didn't consciously think about what he might be like 25 years later. I just said, I'm different, he'll be different. So, and I just went into it with the same kind of personality, I guess, as I had with the first guy. So, and it came out as it came out. So, the sort of interesting process. And then there were some other little fun pieces along the way. The fat Dougie was a lot of fun. Just to be able to pat your belly like that was really fun. I enjoyed that. That was good. So.
Well, incredible performance, Scott.
Thank you.
And I cannot say the incredible performance without Cheryl, especially. Let's specifically point out when on the evening Maddie was killed, and on network TV, that scene, which had to be the scariest scene ever aired on network TV, that day, I know, was not a happy day. David, from what I'm told, is filled with the love and family that he brings to the set. Is that vital? Especially on a day like that where you have to scream all day, you have to go through this all day. From what I understand, there were 3 different ways of shooting that scene, 3 different killers to kind of throw off any spoilers that may happen. Getting through that, the feel of David that he brings to set, like did that, the mental place, how easy is that and how hard is that to shut off when you go home? Your performance is incredible.
Well, I was really tired.
Oh, I bet.
At the end of that.
Yeah.
But those days they take a lot of focus because it has to be really choreographed, and I was working with great actors. So I was in good hands, and you just know those days are what they are, and you do them, and you focus on what the stunt people tell you to do, and be safe, and you take the emotional journey and trust the people that you're working with.
Yeah, she was. Oh. I don't need this. No, she was actually, she was killed by 3 different people that day. By me, Leland, by Ben Horn, and by Bob, Frank Silva, because David didn't want even the crew to know who the real killer of Laura Palmer was. And so she had to go through having her face smashed into the wall by 3 different people. And it was, I remember it was a long day, 12, 14 hours, I think. And you know, we all needed a massage afterwards, you know, and to wind down. But yeah, it was quite an experience.
I have a follow-up question. So did you know who? So you just had to give it everything for all 3 versions.
Oh, that day I did know. Was it the day before that we found out? It was only like the day before, right? I think it was only the day
it was
before.
the day before, yeah.
So was it hard
It was right after the Emmys,
to bring
in which we didn't win any. I remember. Oh, we might have won a technical one, but we were up for 14 Emmys and we didn't win it. L.A. Law was the big show that year.
And where is that now?
Oh yeah. Or should I?
Yes. Yes.
The day before, I got a message from that David wanted to see me up in this room in our production facility, and I came into the room and it was rather dark. I think there was a lava lamp in the corner. and David and Mark were sitting cross-legged on the floor, and Richard Beamer and myself and Cheryl, we all came in and we all got down on the floor, cross-legged, and David looked at me and he reached out and touched my knee and he said, "Ray, it's you. It's always been you." And I thought, I remember that moment, I thought, no, shit. I did not want it to be me. I did not want to leave town. I don't have to go to jail or be killed or whatever, and I did not want that to happen. But then David assuaged my feelings by saying I would die in Cooper's arms. And he would read the Tibetan Book of the Dead over me. And I would look down that long tunnel and see the white light, and my daughter Laura would be at the end of it with her arms outstretched to me, and she would forgive me. He painted such a picture that I no longer felt badly about leaving the show. And then I hoped I could come back in the 3rd season. But that's another story.
Can I say something? I've never told you this before, Sherilyn, or anyone actually ever, but for some reason I was called into work that day, and I was there the entire day. And I watched from a little crack in the fireplace. I watched you shoot all 3 of those scenes. And I had, when I got home that night, I never did work. I don't know why I was called in to work. There was no reason. There was nothing I was missing, no interview. Producer didn't want me to do, so he called me into work. So I went home and just sat on my back porch like in a stupor because I couldn't tell anybody. And I've never told anybody this, but I remember saying out loud, Ray should win an Emmy, Sherilyn should win an Emmy. No, what's bigger than an Emmy? And I was so impressed. It was so frightening. It was crazy.
And I know a lot of you have questions, so we're going to line up in just a sec. But first, because we just ended on kind of a downer, my bad. You know, my friend Ray, what people don't know is at night, he sneaks out and he goes to the jazz club and he croons for people and he's amazing. And that's made up, but he does have an amazing voice. And I think before we do audience questions, I think Ray should sing us out of the dark into the light to lead up to our audience questions. What do we think? Dude, can you give us a little ditty, Ray? As my friend, for me, please.
Sorry, I can't. Oh, mercy does and does. It goes a little lamby divey, a kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? Oh, mercy does and does. It does a little lamby divey, a kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? And though the words sound queer and funny to your ear, a little bit jumpy and jivey, say mares eat oats and does eat oats and little lambs eat ivy. Oh, mares eat oats and does eat oats and little lambs eat ivy, a kiddle eat ivy too, wouldn't you? A kiddle eat ivy too, wouldn't you?
Thank you for being a good sport, Ray. Now, for those of you that have questions, we have about maybe 15 minutes where we can do this. So please line up in a nice order, be kind and courteous to each other, and be respectful with your questions. Please keep in mind this is David Lynch's world. We enjoy secrets, but any questions you have about their experience on the show, go for it. And let's start with yours.
Hi, Ben Durant from Twin Peaks Unwrapped podcast. This is for Kyle or Cheryl. In Firewalk with Me, the angels are not in the first two scripts of Firewalk with Me. Any idea how the angels may have been part of the movie?
Yes.
Can you share it with us?
No.
Now, as I said, there are secrets.
Thank you.
You're gonna have to ask the angels.
Cheryl, was it you that asked for the angels?
You're gonna have to ask the angels.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That was perfect, David, the channel.
Take note. Take note.
I took some notes. Nervous. As we all know, Twin Peaks is different. As we all learned recently, Laura is the one. But she's not just one, she is many. And this community, these fans are different. And we are many. And we often find Twin Peaks, not only by going there and attending these things, but looking into the eyes of all of you and each other. And my question is, when you look at us, what do you see? And how do you feel? And how, for those who have been here a long time, how has that evolved into this?
You just made me cry. We are so grateful and thankful for you guys. You are, Keisha, where's my Kleenex?
I only expected for me to cry.
No, we're so thankful for you because you have allowed us to continue to come together like this and have these reunions, and you are what inspired that third season on Showtime. It was because of the incredible following that the world took notice and saw that, okay, this story can continue and the fans want more. So I just thank you. And you made me cry. Where's my Kleenex?
You guys, what I think, and I always tell everyone, is you guys, the Twin Peaks fans, you know, they're love. It's just love. And you guys are artistic, and you guys are, you know, quirky and fun and interesting people, and just all the love. It's just, you guys love, and it's just, it's definitely symbiotic, back and forth, man. That's the way I've always felt. So thanks to you guys. Thank you for that.
I think, just to add to that, we are all here, I think, touched by the genius of David Lynch. And I think it takes a certain person to respond to David's not for everyone, but to respond to his work. And this is a room full of people that have been touched by David, so thank you.
Thank you for that. That was awesome.
Well, wait, one more thing. That's why I always call you all our sacred family. Because as Kyle said the same thing, not everybody gets it. I joke, but my mom hates it. You know, she just wants to, he's weird, he does all this stuff. I'm like, oh, Mom, David doesn't care what you think. You know? But anyway, before I ever attended his show, I had fear. Like, is it safe? So stupid, right? All these different things. And then it's become really connecting and looking in people's eyes and sharing on a deep level, and people have given me their perspective of what touched them and what it meant to them. And you can't ask for more than that. As an actor, you know, that's what you do, is to tell stories. So God bless all of you. We love all of you.
And as a newbie, I just want to thank you guys for welcoming us so warmly. You know, it's intimidating enough coming on someone else's show, never mind the greatest show that's ever been. And between the cast and the fans, you guys have been so welcoming. You're brainiacs, you're genius, you're beautiful, you're fun, you're just everything an actor could hope for, so thank you.
Doing this. I'm a huge fan of the show, and I have so many questions, and the only thing that comes to mind is no meat's got heat. So I wanted to ask Mr. MacLachlan, when you were shooting Showgirls, was there a point where you thought, I might not get an Oscar?
That wasn't me. That wasn't me. I don't know who it was, but it wasn't me. Well, that was a fun adventure. It was a detour. A nice detour. Showgirls.
Own it. It was awesome.
Thank you. I'm shy.
Hello, thank you for being here. Miss Lee, the show definitely has a lot of, you know, strange and surreal moments, and there's definitely a few red herrings. Was there ever a point before finding out who killed Laura Palmer that you really, you know, had your own kind of ideas or inflections on who that may be, or what you kind of thought you would see in the future?
Oh yeah, I had my ideas of who I thought it was.
So sweet.
Oh, no, all along.
No.
Yeah, I wanted it to be anybody else but me. It would have been him, maybe. I would have gone for Bobby.
No.
Maybe Sheriff Andy. Anybody but me.
Everybody asked. I mean, I asked right away. It's not Audrey, is it? You know, he just wouldn't tell any of us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Hello. It's like seeing all my favorite people ever, and some of my first heartthrobs. I have a question. It's kind of for Miss Fenn, but some of the characters are such lovable characters, Cooper and Audrey, and then such horrible things happen to you guys. And particularly, I think of Miss Audrey Horne. What was it like hearing about the fate of these characters, and why do you think, I guess, they ended up having the fates that they did?
You mean the return?
Yes. Well, at the end of the one blew up, kind of.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's really a question for David on so many levels, and we would all just be guessing what something meant. But for me individually, I felt, well, I didn't even find out till after we shoot that he raped her. I mean, it's crazy, you know? So you go into something and you just give everything that you have to give, and sometimes you don't have the facts, you know? Yeah, so.
All right, well, thanks.
First of all, to paraphrase Kanye West, the great philosopher,
I'm gonna let y'all finish. I talked about Sopranos and Breaking Bad. I'm gonna let y'all finish, but Twin Peaks is the greatest show of all time. Can we agree with that?
I'm glad you pulled that back.
Yeah, yes. My question is specifically to start with Kyle, because Kyle, you've worked with David the most, but then anybody else can answer if you've got something to say. I'm an aspiring filmmaker, director myself, and I just wonder for you guys, and Kyle, for you specifically, what is your experience when you as an actor are doing something and David wants something different than what you're doing, and he has to talk to you and direct you into what his vision is? What makes him unique in that?
He doesn't really talk much, to be honest. I mean, I've got to say, with David, from the beginning, the script is a pretty good blueprint for all of the characters to follow. I don't think anyone, it's pretty clear on what's going on. And then I think I just trust, and I think we all do, that David sees in us what he wants. It's already there. So we just have to just kind of be who we are. Like you said, you show up and you're yourself, you know, and given the circumstances that you go through, of course, those change things. But David has always been, if anything, less is more kind of a director for me. I've spoken a little bit about some of the terminology that he shares with me from time to time to encourage a certain difference, and he will, on times, although he doesn't do it that much anymore, say it needs more mystery, like sometimes, or more Elvis. Sometimes that's one of my favorites, actually. Or it needs, and then it's always with the hand gesture, a little wind. It needs some wind, you know. Like, okay, all right. So I just absorb that, and it changes the next take. And I'm not really sure how or why, but he always seems to be pleased. So, so far so good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go to the next question, I do want to say that we do have time for a few more questions, but fear not, because we are around, we're at booths. Please come meet them and say hello, and you can ask more questions if you'd like, but we just have to kind of get ready to wrap things up, so go ahead.
Hey there, thank y'all so much for being here. This is so cool. I was telling Cheryl Lee yesterday that I'm a school counselor for 10th grade, and for Halloween I have a Twin Peaks display in my office. And so one of my students comes in, she's like, why do you have all these owls? Why is there a log there? And then she sees where it says Twin Peaks, and she's like, Twin Peaks? I thought that was a restaurant. And so I was curious if any of y'all have ever ate at the Twin Peaks restaurant.
Next question. No, I'm just kidding. Has anybody had the Twin Peaks restaurant?
No.
Apparently there's a...
No, I've seen them online, though.
It's not licensed, it's not official, but it's a Twin Peaks sports bar.
Twin Peaks restaurant in San Francisco.
Right, that's the one.
Yeah.
There totally are Twin Peaks restaurants. I heard because
Vegas,
they never got it incorporated. Or like the name, to own the name and time, and then they open these freaking restaurants.
My grandparents lived in Twin Peaks. When I was doing the first season, I showed David Lynch a postcard that was Mr. and Mrs. John Robertson, Twin Peaks, California. And he went, Aces.
Thank y'all.
Let me remove my Twin Peaks branded mask here and ask a question. Obviously, we're all fans of that show. Is there any projects that maybe you've worked on as an actor, as a producer, that you wish more people knew about, that you want to bring more awareness to?
Other projects that you've worked on.
Well, I'll just plug myself right now. I just directed my first feature film. just finished post. I'm so excited. And we'll start hitting the festival circuit, and the name of it is My Name Is. And it's got a very cool mental health kind of theme to it. I'm not going to give you too much, but it was really important for us as the filmmakers to tell a mental health story that is not these like stereotypical, I think goes into creating more stigma in Hollywood and showing somebody's real experience that's diverse and beautiful and complicated, and so please watch out for it.
Similar to that, not really. I did a film over a decade ago, and it's possibly the worst thing you have ever seen in your life. We shot it in Egypt. I was kidnapped at one point for 4 hours, and everything went wrong. And we thought it was buried forever, but the director has somehow clawed it back and has remixed it. And against all of our teams trying to squash it, they are going to release it in Toronto. So watch out for that, and you can count how many times parts of my costume just dissolve. And by the end of the movie, I think I'm really tanned and blonde hair, and at the start I'm a redhead, really white skin. Enjoy.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I was wondering if you... Have you had any stories from filming the Twin Peaks episode of Sight, Jules Fires? Oh, yeah.
They are the sweetest guys. Those two guys are so sweet. This is my story. We were, I think because of weather or something, we had to get this shot, and what's the sweet lead guy's name? What's his name? James. Yes, Roday. So anyway, James knew I was so desperate to see this tennis final. Like, he moved it and sent me to the sports bar. He says, just hang out, you can watch the final. And then they ended up not losing me, or using me at all that day. It was just a really fun thing, and it was one of the times when a lot of us got back together, and it was out of his love for the show. I remember we were sitting in the bar with him once, and he had like little cheery eyes, and he's like, I can't believe you're all sitting here.
He was very proud of himself for giving us the group he did. He was very
Well, and fun for us because we played husband and wife, which was crazy because we, in Twin Peaks, we didn't have any scenes together. And then I got to meet Cheryl Lee, and you and I didn't have scenes together, but it was really special. And then Ray and I,
Ray was like, you were just reprising a character you'd already done on the show.
On the show,
right?
yeah.
Within the Twin Peaks.
And then just recently in the Psych 3 movie, too.
so that was really
No, those two guys are crazy, Joe Roday and Dule Hill, and they're a lot of fun to work with. And like she said, James was a big fan of Twin Peaks, so he wanted to have us on his show.
Because in Twin Peaks, I, of course, was 19, and I was saddled with, like, old men. And there was, like, scenes where I was like, oh, and I was having to make out, literally, it was written that I was supposed to be making out with my husband. I was like, really? Do I really have to do that? Thankfully, they just had me kissing all over their face, but I was like, I can't. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this?
So the show's Psych, Dual Spires, check that episode out. It's really great to see them all together again. We are about to wrap up. I do want to recommend one more watch for all of you. Has anybody seen the Beach House music video for Wishes with Ray Wise? It's really incredible. And it is not your average high school halftime football show. That's all I'm saying. Watch that video. One thing that I want to say to you before we end is David was quoted as saying, I love Twin Peaks and its world. And right now you're looking at a room that we love Twin Peaks and its world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.